The Greens and Te Pāti Māori betray and destroy Māori lives. Everyone knows the saying, if you do the crime, you do the time. But the Green Party and Te Pāti Māori see it differently. Let's defund the New Zealand police. Let's abolish prisons. Let's fix the root cause of why they commit crime by giving Māori a warm, dry house, plenty of money, and life will be just great again for everyone. I know, what crap, but let's dive deeper anyway. Some Māori prison statistics. Māori are significantly overrepresented in New Zealand's prison system, and this applies to both men and women. Māori make up about 18% of New Zealand's population. Māori men make up roughly 52% of the male prison population. Māori women make up roughly 62% of the female prison population. Some Māori MPs' comments. WhangāreiTim, Te Pāti Māori. In a 2026 press release, Waititi stated that prisons fail because they do not address the root cause of crime, listing poverty, inequality, unemployment, homelessness, racism, poor mental health, trauma, and colonisation as the real drivers. Waititi goes on to say that the goal should be to build a country where prisons become unnecessary. He explicitly says New Zealand must address the causes of crime rather than locking people up. Let's abolish prisons. Tamitha Paul, the New Zealand Green Party. Across 2024 to 2026, she criticised over-policing and argued that the police responses failed to address underlying issues such as mental distress, homelessness and social inequality. She spoke at events discussing radical alternatives to policing and systemic racism in the justice system, and led a 2025 panel arguing that New Zealand's justice system is counterproductive. Her comments clearly suggested that crime prevention requires addressing social conditions, not harsher policing or sentencing. Let's defund the police.
And every person has an origin story, and all of us here in this house have a whakapapa that describes and explains how we came to be the people that we are and why we do the things that we do. Māori women are the most incarcerated Indigenous group of people in the world. And that is not because there is something inherent within our whakapapa that makes us criminal. It is because our criminal justice system has racism baked into it. And understanding this allows us to understand what the rehabilitative pathway forward is for that individual. And that's something that we need to understand in order to stamp any issues out at their root cause. So this is just kind of funneling more people into the justice system for longer periods of time and doesn't get to the root cause of why that crime was committed in the first place.
Both politicians fail miserably. WhangāreiTim and Tamitha Paul both miss the obvious reason why Māori men and women are significantly overrepresented in New Zealand's prison system. And I believe that they both do so deliberately. Often the truth hurts, but sometimes you have to be cruel to be kind. Sometimes telling the truth will do far more good in the long run. But there is a gravy train to milk, so it's a tough call asking them to be upfront and honest. Both politicians blatantly ignore this fact. Across many countries and decades of statistical studies, groups with lower cognitive scores, in other words, below average IQ, show higher rates of reactive aggression, higher rates of arrests and incarceration, higher rates of school failure, which in itself predicts delinquency. These facts mean that within any given population, including New Zealand's population, violence and incarceration are more common among people with lower cognitive ability, below average IQ. This is similar to saying smokers have higher lung cancer rates, which is a population pattern, not a destiny. In other words, it does not mean if you have below average IQ that you are destined to be violent and go to jail. The truth: Māori men and women are significantly overrepresented in New Zealand's prison system not because of colonisation, inequality, poverty, unemployment, homelessness, racism or poor mental health, But because of the obvious, they have lower cognitive ability, they have below average IQ. This reason was the primary driver behind the NCEA education system. Rather than address the real problem of below average IQ, they dumbed down the education system for everyone to make it look like Māori were smarter than they really were. The solution? Politicians, especially from Labour, Greens and Pāti Māori, should start by telling the truth and start addressing the real problem. That is, how to raise cognitive ability, how to raise IQ. Forget colonisation, forget milking the gravy train, just tell the truth and address the problem. Thank you for listening. WhangāreiTim.